It's a pleasure to come to you, at least by video, to the Aspen Institute's Prague conference. And I certainly hope to be there next year because Prague, I think, is my favorite city in the world. I've loved it for years, go back all the time, and look forward to being there again. The Aspen Institute, as you know, has been around for more than 60 years. It is an institute that's based on a simple premise that we need great leadership based on the values that we all share. That's more important now than it ever was in the past. It started in the United States when the Aspen Institute created a seminar that helped develop leadership. We also created a lot of policy programs, including on communications and society, on business, on foreign policy, arms control. And these policy programs are nonpartisan. Like everything else the Institute does, it's leadership based on values. One of the other things we've done is had a Young Leaders program, and I know that's become important with our Eastern European and Central and Western European partners as well. We have young leaders, usually under the age of 40 or 45, who go through a process of some of our seminars, and they become sort of trained in how to think through important issues based on the values we share. It's particularly exciting for me to see it happen in Prague. I remember the first time I went to Prague, I was visiting right during the 1989 as things were changing in what was then Czechoslovakia. I got to meet with Dubček. I got to meet with Václav Havel. I was in Havel's apartment when Dubček came from Bratislava to come visit after Václav Havel had gotten out of jail. All of the conversations that night were based on how we were creating a new type of society, not only in what would become the Czech Republic, but around the world, based on democratic values, freedom, and the free expression that comes in an information age. Havel told all of us that evening stories about how you can collaborate with people doing bad or you can resist them. And when you communicate, when you're part of a group, when you're part of something like the Aspen Institute, it gives you not only the wisdom but also the courage to be able to do things like stand up to people in power, people in authority who are being oppressive of our rights. That is why Prague, for Madeleine Albright, for Fred Malik, for myself, all of us with either roots in Central Europe or a real affection for Prague, that's why we look to Prague as a beacon of freedom and of leadership. I can't think of a better place for the Aspen Institute to be holding meetings than in Prague. We will look around the world. We're going to have some ideas festivals like we have in Aspen. We're going to have one in Europe soon. But it is that notion of bringing people together, saying, here's what we stand for. Here's how we've studied these values that have informed our civilization over the years. And here's how those values are applied in various policy programs. I've written a lot of books about innovation and creativity, and whether it's Benjamin Franklin, Albert Einstein who studied in Prague for a while, or Steve Jobs, it comes not just from being smart, because we all know smart people, a lot of smart people, and we end up realizing that smart people, they generally don't amount to much unless they have imagination, unless they're innovative, unless they can think creatively. And that is the challenge we have in our society today, is to say, how can we take what we're doing and sort of make a leap of imagination and think of new ways of doing it? That's true of our technologies. That's true of our government. That's true of the way we look at the global situation, where a global order just based on nation states with their rivalries and friendships is not going to work in an age of multinational threats, such as the environmental climate change that we're facing or the terrorist threat. These have to have new ways, new innovative ways of thinking. And I do think that it's those types of leaps of the imagination that ability to think outside of the box, that's really important for you all to be discussing in this conference and for all of us to be doing as we do Aspen Ideas Festivals. What's the way to innovate? You know, Steve Jobs always felt that if he stood right there at the intersection of caring about what was artistic and beautiful on the one hand, and caring about technology and science on the other hand, and if you put those things together, you would have great new inventions, but those inventions would also be things that would help connect us, like social networks, iPhones, computers, things that would help bring us together and help us collaborate and work together on new ways of being innovative and creative. There's a very special and significant nature to the transatlantic relationship. In many ways, the friendship and the alliance that form what is now part of NATO, European Union's, America's alliance with Europe, that goes back centuries because we have a shared tradition of belief in democracy, individual liberty that grew up together both in Europe and the United States. So there's a deep-rooted sense of values, a deep-rooted cultural heritage that we all share. And I think that makes the alliance between the United States and its European partners not just an alliance of convenience, not just a strategic alliance, not just an alliance based on security interests, but an alliance based on the deepest of all things, which is the values we share and the values we want to impart to the next generation. So thank you very much for having me. I look forward to seeing you next year. And whenever you're in the United States, come visit the Aspen Institute. Thank you.